What if the way you learn to succeed is no longer the way that you want to live? This conversation is for you if you have been asking yourself, how do I keep pursuing meaningful success without losing myself, my relationships, or the deeper purpose behind what I am creating? For many purpose-driven adults, pressure has become so familiar that we barely recognize it. We keep telling ourselves that this is simply what success requires, and that way of operating may have helped us accomplish many meaningful things. But what happens when achievement no longer creates the fulfillment we thought it would? What happens when the identity that brought us this far no longer fits the person we want to become, or the life we now feel called to create? In today's conversation, leadership coach Kurt Busch and I explore the hidden beliefs beneath hustle, the difference between pressure-driven action and intentional purpose-driven choices, and what it means to stop measuring your life by everything you have not accomplished. We talk about awareness, identity, unmet needs, and the possibility of creating meaningful results without constantly proving your worth. Because redefining success does not mean abandoning ambition. It means learning how to pursue what matters without losing your connection to yourself, the people you love, or the purpose behind what you are creating. Together we explore what becomes possible when success is no longer driven by pressure, fear, or the need to prove, and begins to grow from alignment, self-trust, and meaningful contribution, and a deeper understanding of what fulfillment truly means. This conversation is for you if you are purpose-driven, capable, and committed to creating a meaningful life, but the way you learn to succeed no longer feels sustainable, fulfilling, or aligned with the person you are becoming. Hello, and welcome to the Conquering FUDDD Podcast. I am your host, Pennie Wilson, and today we have our guest, Kurt Busch. Kurt, we are so grateful to have you here today. I'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit about you and what makes you go.
Yeah, thanks, Pennie, for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here with you. I am a leadership coach. I say leadership coach, but leadership is a broad term. My partner and I, we think that leaders, just anybody that has somebody following them. So we coach leaders who feel like they are stuck or feel like they don't know how to take a step forward in their own life or their own rhythms or their own success. They don't know how to get different results than what they're getting. Oftentimes, they're feeling like they're in an unsustainable rhythm, and we employ a number of frameworks and a number of practices to be curious with them and to ask good questions that help them uncover the solution that's already within inside of them so that they can take steps to new rhythms, new practices that will get more sustainable results in the long term.
I love that. That's so awesome. And it does help me to think also of what I want to explore today. So I've been leaning into a thought model and trying to explore the compare and contrast of what it looks like for leaders that are pushing harder, doing more, and going basically toward a dead end of burnout. I would call it a cliff. But it's inevitable, right? You keep pushing that hard and that fast and that much. What else can happen in the end? And the opposite of that is one where I'm learning in different areas of my life. One is voice coaching, of all things, that she's teaching me how to scale back all the extra work so that I can get down to the bare minimum of the foundation and have something to build on. So when I learn things in my body, it helps me to see it in a different area of my life. So then I'm seeing it in business and seeing what does that mean for me as the CEO of my company? What does that mean as I scale up as a leader? So that's kind of what I would love to explore with you today, the thoughts, the beliefs, and the emotions that go along with all of that. And just to explain to our listeners today, I'll share the picture in the video version of this if you watch it on YouTube. It shows the sun on one side that represents the paradigm of abundance, all the things that go along with moving toward the light. And that's why the visual is so powerful. I teach that our mind are programmed with images, words, and beliefs. And in that experience of what we create the beliefs in our mind. So the visual of the sun helps us to look at what does abundance mean versus on the opposite side of the clouds. And why this podcast is called Conquering FUDDD is because those clouds represent fear, uncertainty, doubt, dread, and discouragement. All of those things that pull us down away from what we want toward what we fear. So with that thought model, setting the context and the background, I have been through lots of different coaching experiences and seeing two different worldviews in what
Yeah.
this looks like in real world life. So, especially in the marketing and the sales world. So, there's the idea of push and urgency. And for me, I've been through lots of manipulation in my life. So, it feels
Hmm.
like force and coercion. It
Yeah.
feels unhealthy to me. I don't think it feels that way for everyone, but that's what it feels like for me. And on that opposite side, I listened recently to a book by Ty Bennett. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not,
He
no.
recently came out with Redefining High Performance.
Hmm.
Fantastic, amazing book. I listened to it on our way back from Atlanta last week, and it went into my mind in the most amazing ways when I was exploring all the questions of how do we go away from burnout and toward less effort and more joy and creating more focus on what we want while letting go of what we fear. So it just fit all the questions, all the things, just redefining these two worldviews.
Hmm.
So I would love to, with your background, burnout and all the things that you coach on, to break down what are the thoughts. Let's just start there. When a leader, maybe personify the people that you've worked with, when someone is caught in a worldview of push and urgency and force and doing so much, if we break it down into thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. I imagine this like a tree. Thoughts are the branches, emotions is the trunk, and the beliefs is the roots on the scene.
Yeah.
So if we break it down first in the first area of, we'll compare and contrast, what are the thoughts when it comes to the worldview of push urgency that leads to burnout?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. I like the way you break that down. I think that's really helpful to kind of get a grasp on what might be keeping us stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the reality of our world is that leadership is, it does feel like a push force. Hustle's a word I
Yeah.
hear a lot. Grind is a word I hear a lot. I think some of the thoughts are that everybody's doing it, that everybody, like, I'm just one of a million people doing it. The thoughts are that I have to do this, I have to keep going, I have to push, or I'm going to get stuck, I'm going to get lost or left
Mhm.
behind. I also think I'm trying to like keep my thoughts from not being beliefs here, because
No, right?
I think
It's hard to separate them.
a lot of these thoughts could be beliefs as well.
Mhm.
I think one of the thoughts is like, this is just what success looks like, right?
Right. The
This is
definition.
just what good looks like. This is how I know I've made it, and is when I'm grinding and hustling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the thoughts. And are those thoughts like expressed by the people that you've worked with? If you could personify all the people that you've worked with into one person, maybe there's a story that might even share the full background that includes thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Could you personify what that looks like in a real life example?
Yeah, yeah. I'll share an example from my own life. I went to seminary late in life. I have a weird career, Penny. Like, I have three careers in one life, and it's wild. But I went to seminary late in life. I had never written a master's level paper. I didn't know what I was doing. I showed up in a master's program, no idea what I'm doing. I remember trying to juggle a job, write papers, study, do all those things well. I also remember having a huge level of imposter syndrome. And I remember every time I would go to submit a paper, I would have this fear of like, they're going to find out that I'm not good enough to be in this
Mhm.
program. The thought that I remember so clearly was, this is just what it means to adult, if I can use adult as a verb,
Right.
right? My thought was, I just like, this is it. I have to figure out how to swim in these waters, because
Mhm.
this is just the waters of adulting.
The way it is.
And I think that is just, it's so limiting and it's so exhausting, feeling like this is just it, like this is the only way. And I think a lot of our clients feel the same way, is
Mhm.
that this is just what it means and there is no other way. Just like the fish doesn't know they're swimming in water, we don't know we're swimming in waters that aren't quote unquote normal. I don't know what normal is, but
Right.
we just assume that our life experience is normal. And I would say I fell into that trap. Most of our clients fall into that trap too.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I love the way that you've broken that down into those thoughts. That's just the way it is. It's the have
Yeah.
to, it's the only way. It's the
Yeah.
normal. It really does remind me of the part of this image. There's a river going from the
Mm,
sun to the clouds. That's the default. And our brain actually operates on that default, not only
yeah.
when we get in that place of scarcity, fight or flight, but our thoughts naturally and automatically go toward going with the flow, doing
Yeah.
whatever everyone else is doing so that we
Yeah.
can stay safe, so we can be
Yeah.
normal, so we can be accepted, all of that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that perspective. Anything
Yeah.
you wanna add there?
Yeah, maybe let me just say, like, none of this made me a bad leader or a bad person.
Absolutely.
None of these make anybody else a bad leader, a bad person. Like, this is just this is how we function as humans, and becoming aware of them
Yeah.
is really the key. But when we're not aware of them, like, we're just doing the best we can.
Exactly, yeah, and I love your fish example because I have a joke that I love about the fish that's swimming in the water. That's probably maybe where your thought of it came from. Have you heard of that?
Maybe.
So the idea is that, two fish are swimming off to work one day, and one fish says to the other, "How's the water today?" And he's like, "What water?" It's like the paradigms that we swim around in, the way that the world is, we just
Yeah.
don't know it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so human and so relatable. We all have this water that we're swimming in, and
Yeah.
until we see it, we can't know that we're doing something different.
Yeah.
It's invisible.
Yep.
So I love that you focus in your work on awareness, that you help people come to that. And that's
Yeah.
really what it is. So let's switch then over from that unsustainable paradigm where they're pushing toward those
Mhm.
thoughts. Actually, I'm wondering if we should maybe break it down to the emotions and the beliefs also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, let's take it deeper then. When someone is caught in that downward spiral, I totally agree that it's not that they're bad. It's just
Yeah.
the default. It's the conditions we were raised with. And
Yeah.
until we know we can't choose differently. It reminds me of one of the things I often talk about was the fish that's floating down the water, going downstream. It takes a great amount of inertia to switch and go
Yeah.
upstream, right? And that's that
Yeah.
moment of awareness and choosing to do something that not everyone else is doing. It might feel
Yeah.
awkward and strange and all of those
Yeah.
things. So,
Yeah.
emotions and beliefs, when we take this paradigm deeper into seeing where is someone when they are in that mindset, what do they feel emotionally? And I really do kinesthetically, I feel emotions in my body, and it's trying to find words to describe that. So, any awareness that you can give to that, what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking. The emotions and the beliefs are where we kind of swim in. Like, these are the waters that we swim in as coaches, and we are not counselors. I
Yes.
like to make that clear. We're not counselors, but often there's a couple key emotions that come up, and it's been true of me. It's been true of my business partner. It's true of most of our clients. Maybe the most obvious presenting emotion is fear. Fear of not keeping up. Fear of not being seen,
Mm,
fear of losing our spot at the table. Right or wrong, the culture we live in today is one that says always be kind of going up and to the right. If we're looking at a graph, our lives always go up and to the right.
mhm.
More status, more things, more salary, more everything, right?
Right,
And we're sort of conditioned to be fearful if our lives aren't quote unquote going up and to the right.
right.
So when we find ourselves in that hustle, in that grind, often what shows up first is fear that we're not doing it right, fear that we're
Mhm.
not keeping up, fear that we're going to lose it. That's maybe, if I could boil down all the work we do with people, if it boils down far enough, it's almost always going to come back to fear.
Mhm.
Um, Anger shows up a lot too. I think it's sort of a second cousin of resentment shows up too. Anger often turns into resentment.
Yes.
Anger unchecked can turn into resentment. Anger at the system, anger at superiors, anger at family that expects things of us, whatever that is. But I think those are probably the two that we see the most. I do think fear is such a loud voice and such
Yeah.
an important piece of all these puzzles.
Huge. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then taking it one level deeper,
Yeah. Yeah.
with the fear, are you familiar with what they call the 6 basic needs, chemical needs,
Yes.
like fear of
Yes.
belonging, certainty, adventure, love, connection, belonging, significance, which is identity and purpose,
Hmm.
and growth and contribution. What is the connection between those fears to what we actually need and what we're hoping to get?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe let me say it like this, and you can push on it if you want to. I think most of the ways that we show up in life, especially the ways that we don't understand or don't choose,
Mhm.
most of those are based on needs that we either need met or we fear are going to go unmet.
I love that.
We are we are created, no matter what somebody believes about how we're created or evolved or whatever, we as humans are really good at getting our needs met.
Yeah.
And our systems, our nervous system, our parts in us will find ways to meet them, sometimes healthy, sometimes unhealthy. So I think for me, that's the connection, is that most of the time, when we're showing up in ways we don't like, or when we're caught in the kind of waters of hustle, it's usually based on some kind of underlying need that's either not being met or we're trying to meet.
I love that, especially when it comes to the fish idea and we don't know what we need. Don't
Yeah.
you find so often that you're like, even with myself, I think when I get in those emotionally heavy situations, I'm just focusing on the fact that my need isn't being met, but
Yeah.
I'm not aware of what I actually need in that
Yeah.
situation. And that's where
Yeah.
that going inside really becomes that
Yeah.
learning experience. Like, what am I
Yeah.
experiencing? Why am I angry? And what do I
Yeah.
really need here?
Yeah, and
So,
and I
yeah.
don't know, like, I don't know what you would say, Penny. I don't know what Utah is like, but growing up in the Midwest, there's a Midwest sensibility
Mm.
that sort of rewards people socially and culturally who don't seek their own needs being met, who elevate the needs of others above theirs, which certainly there is a time and a place, right?
Mhm.
Like, serving others' needs is a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
but I think culturally in the West, we do sort of elevate not having needs, or
Mhm.
not needing other people to meet our needs, or not needing any outside help meeting our needs. So I think that adds to the story of like, I can be strong. I need to be strong. I need to meet my own needs. I need to be independent. I don't need to be a burden on anybody. I
Yeah.
think that just complicates all of the conversation around needs, and I think shows why we just often don't know what we need.
Right. Wow, that is so powerful. There's a framework that I use called the power of TED, and it talks about the drama triangle
Mm,
of the persecutor, the victim, and the rescuer. And then
mm,
on the opposite side of that is the creator, the coach, and the challenger.
mm.
So in that, the typical rescuer, they're like, "Oh, I don't need anything. I'm just here to serve. I'm here to give,"
Yeah.
and they need to be needed. They need to
Yeah.
feel that
Yeah.
sense of, but that is a virtue, right? Being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
give someone else, and oftentimes in religion, that's religion is a huge part of the culture here in
Yeah.
Utah,
Yeah.
that, forget about your own needs and go serve your neighbor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the underlining. Go ahead.
Which I think what you're hitting on, which I agree wholeheartedly. I think the common thread here is that none of these things inherently are bad, right? None of the serving others, putting others' needs ahead of art, that's not inherently bad. Getting
Mhm.
my needs met, that's not inherently bad.
Mm.
I think I don't always like good and bad. I'm not sure even how to like label good and bad, but the unproductive side of that, or the side of that that becomes less fruitful, is when I'm not aware of what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Right. We like to say in our coaching practice that there's very few practices. There is good and bad. There is right and wrong. There is truth, all that kind of stuff. But if I'm able to make a principled decision based on my values, based on what I need, there's rarely a wrong, right? If
Yeah.
I say I'm going to elevate somebody else's needs above mine because my cup is full and because
Mhm.
I'm in a place that I can serve, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
But if I'm elevating other people's needs and I'm just exhausted and I'm empty,
Mm.
that's not good for any of us, right? So I think often the common denominator is, why am I making these decisions to do what I do? Why am I holding these kind of principled core beliefs, and how am I living them out? That's a tangent, maybe, Penny, but it felt relevant.
Actually, I love it. Let's go there, because
Yep.
having those unhealthy ways that we get those needs met
Yeah.
creates that cycle of manipulation of force and control,
Yeah.
versus being in that place of having my cup full, so to speak, and
Yeah.
then wanting to give out of that desire to lift someone else. It's a huge
Yeah.
difference. That could be a core factor of what connects us to that scarcity versus
Yeah.
abundance, and what we're
Yeah.
focusing on when we go in one direction. So let's explore, what does it look like when someone is coming into that place of awareness to see, what needs am I meeting in an unhealthy way versus a healthy way?
Yeah. Yeah. This gets into like a boundaries conversation.
Right.
And when we say boundaries here in our coaching practice, we think of boundaries simply being where I end and you begin, right? Boundaries for us aren't about a flow chart of if yes, then this, and if
Right.
no, then, like, not really how we think about boundaries, but really what we think about is if I can understand clearly who and how I want to be, now every opportunity to make a decision is an opportunity to be aligned with who I want to be.
Mm.
Right? It's like a fork in the road. I think about forks in the road. I can look at a fork in the road and say, man, there's probably a right and a wrong. What if I take the wrong fork? Or how do I know where I'm going? Well, I don't know if either fork is wrong. I mean, maybe, but what if I look at that fork as a chance to say, I get to pause and look at the map. I
Mm.
get to pause and see where the one fork goes and where the other goes, and I get to decide where I want to be, and I'm going to choose the best fork in the moment. I don't know then if either fork is wrong, right? But now I can go down those forks confident that I've made a principled decision. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm in
Mhm.
control. I don't have to feel shame about why I picked one or the other. I made a principled decision that aligns with my values.
Right. I love that. That's so powerful because I think in that scarcity mindset, as you mentioned in the beginning, we're caught in that belief that we have to. It feels
Yeah.
like a narrowing, a constricting, like I'm going into
Yeah.
this tiny little space and a cage versus
Yeah.
the opposite of going into that sun area where what do you want? What's going to
Yeah.
lead you toward where you truly want to be? I love the
Yeah.
awareness of looking down the road and looking at that. That's powerful because it goes back to those basic needs. And when we
Mm.
ignore those needs, they're going to get louder because
There.
there's
Yep.
something real. Okay, so let's go back to the tree thoughts,
Yes. Yes.
emotions, and beliefs, going down deeper into those unseen, unspoken beliefs that would create the fear, the hustle, the feeling like you have to. What are the beliefs that people are feeling and not recognizing when it comes to this hustle mentality?
Yeah. There's a couple. I think the first is profound, and it's I'm not good enough. Right.
Yes.
We call this shame. We steal from Brene Brown, who talks about
Yeah.
shame. Shame is the feeling that I'm not enough.
Mhm.
Guilt is I've done something that's bad, which is not what we're talking about here in the beliefs roots. But shame is that I'm just not good enough.
Yeah.
And that drives us to do all sorts of things to feel like we're good enough. The other belief that shows up a lot is I'm going to be found out,
Mm.
that I don't belong,
Yeah.
which is similar to I'm not good enough, but it's nuanced, right? I'm not good enough is about me feeling inside like I'm good enough.
Mm.
I don't belong or I'm going to be found out. That belief is rooted in someone else's vision of me.
Oh,
So there's a little nuance there. They are slightly different, but I can see how people would get those confused. The other belief is that I have to strive to earn, whether that's title, whether that's accolades or achievement or again belonging. That's a big one. Is
yeah.
I have to strive to earn.
Right. I would also say that that's a sense of proving. It's like a reaching, grabbing, and a chasing for something that you feel like is just out of reach. Like, I don't really believe I can have it. So I need to
Yeah.
chase it.
I have a friend who will say one of the beliefs that he's held on to for a lot of years is I don't deserve good things.
Mm.
And all these things go back to first formation. And
Yes.
I think all of us are kind of conditioned from a young age to strive to earn all sorts of attention, right? I mean, think about elementary school. Like,
Mhm.
it is sort of a breeding ground for strive to earn attention and affection, right?
Yeah.
And I love public school. Don't hear me say that. My kids are in a great public school, but I think those sort of Western ideals do sort of create this I have to achieve and perform and
Right.
strive
Mhm.
to get those things.
Yeah, it's part of our culture and the way
Yeah.
that all of those paradigms are set up and the way
Yeah.
things are.
And they're
Yeah.
not all bad, right?
Right, definitely not.
I like your sun and clouds because everything has a sun side and what we would call a shadow side. Like,
Mhm.
there is a positive and a shadow to all of these things. So
Yes.
none of them are binarily good or bad, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's why I love the metaphorical language because someone can interpret that to mean whatever is true for them.
Yeah.
They can create the meaning there in finding those
Yeah.
answers inside like you talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have maybe like 5-10 minutes left, and I would love to shift over to the side of the sun and look at the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs that would lead someone toward the worldview of knowing that they're enough
Mhm.
and at the same time feeling like they don't have to prove and hustle. What's the shift that people can look for in awareness in what they want to experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Penny. I think it's simple and complex, if I can say those things. We think in our coaching practice, we think about measuring success and the things we want in life as measuring our inputs, not our outputs.
Mm,
Meaning, there's all sorts of results that I can get in my leadership. Like, I can look at my coaching practice financials. I can look at my schedule. I can look at all those things, and I have to on some level. And I'm not really in control of those things.
right.
Like, I really am not in control if somebody clicks book on our coaching website. I'm
Mhm.
just not. I am in control of the effort that I put in beforehand. I am in control of my work life balance. I am in control of how I show up with my family. I am in control with the ability to get to the end of my week and say, I'm happy with how I showed up.
Mhm.
So we think about measuring those things. One of the biggest shifts is shifting people to say, measure what you can control so that you can actually see results. Like, take ownership of it, take agency. Uh, we don't have to be victims. We don't have to
Mhm.
be victim of our circumstance. We can actually take control of things that get little wins for us. And win
Mhm.
breeds win breeds win breeds win.
Mhm. Yeah. And I love that you pointed it back to the opposition and the contrast, feeling out of control, trying to focus on things that are outside of our ability to choose. That's what
Yeah.
makes us feel powerless, like that
Yeah.
victim, you know? And
100%.
so
Yep.
the way that I would put this into a visual image, like I have a bubble around me. And everything within that bubble, I get to choose. It's mine.
Yeah.
I own it. I get to choose my thoughts, my words, my
Yeah.
feelings, and that's trainable. That's
Yeah.
trainable that I can train my thoughts and train those feelings. And then eventually that leads to the beliefs. So, and
Yeah.
then everything outside of that bubble is things that I can't choose.
Yeah.
My husband's choices, my kids' choices.
Yeah.
Okay, I can listen to them, I can offer feedback, ask
Yeah.
questions, but I don't get to choose it.
Yeah.
And I love where you said in the beginning, where I end and someone else begins. I love that foundation.
Yeah, I have a 16-year-old son, and I love teenagers. I love my teenagers. Let me just say that. I don't always love other people's kids, but teenage years can be tough. And
Mhm.
I think the best example of this is, like, I really, at the end of the day, don't get to control what my teenager does. He got a speeding ticket a month after he got his driver's license, like full driver's license. He got. I'm like, what are you doing? I really don't control how fast he goes in his car.
Mhm.
I do control my response when I come home and see the ticket on the counter,
Mhm.
right? I do control how the words I say to him
Yeah.
that at the end of the day are ultimately going to, like, impact my own wholeness and my own contentment, my own fulfillment, right? So I think that's a kind of a tactical example of, there's so many things we can't control. And if we spend our time chasing those, we'll just constantly be chasing something that we just can't find.
Mhm. So powerful. So, those thoughts, emotions that we can control, focusing on what we can choose, what are the other mindsets or beliefs going into emotions, anything else that will take us toward the desired outcome that we want to create and let go of the have to?
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the beliefs, and this is so much easier said than done,
Right.
Penny. Like, this is, I almost hesitate to say this because it's going to sound flippant, but I think one of the main beliefs is that we have enough and we've done enough. And listen, I'm painfully aware that there are people all around us that don't actually have enough. But many of our clients, we do have enough, and we've done enough.
Mhm.
We've done enough to receive attention and affection. We've done enough to sit back and say, I'm proud of my work.
Mhm.
Right? There is nothing more. I mean, I love your abundance and scarcity language. I mean,
Mhm.
we've done enough.
Yeah.
We just don't need to strive anymore. And I think that's where, the things we measure dictate the things we do. And if I'm measuring the things that lead to me believing I don't have enough, I'm just always going to feel like I don't have enough.
Right.
Whereas if I can look and kind of measure the things that remind me I do have enough, and I do have enough to show up when that speeding ticket is on my, like, I have enough to be
Mhm.
okay in that, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's the mindset shift is I have enough and I've done enough.
I love that. Yeah. It's definitely that feeling of belief about who you are, what you've done, looking back at your past, seeing the wins instead of seeing the
Yeah,
mistakes, like
yeah,
the way that you see yourself. And
yeah.
going into identity, how do you feel like the identity piece of how you see yourself plays into this, and how does that get formed within what you do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what's true, Penny, is that 10 people in a room are going to have 10 different ways of thinking about where their identity comes from. Some of it comes from a faith based set of practices, some it comes from results in life and seeing that we've done enough and we've achieved enough. I do think you're right. Wherever that comes from, being able to rest on saying, here's knowing where it comes from is probably more important than actually where it comes from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Having the awareness to say this is where I'm going to find it is
Mhm.
probably even more important than where it's found, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's the path of how to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
If I don't know where I'm going to place my identity, I can't get there, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Because I'm always going to default. Then, if I don't know where to place it, I'm always going to default it into my status or my
Mm,
salary or my
yeah,
role. Because again, culturally, that's kind of where we do
yeah,
that.
the default.
The first question we ask is, "What do you do?"
Mm,
When we meet somebody. So
mhm,
yeah, I think helping people with some well placed questions. Our posture is always to ask good questions at the right
mhm,
time.
mhm.
Asking the right questions to say where do you want this to come from?
Beautiful.
At the end of the day, where do you want this to come from?
That's powerful. And what you said earlier also about principles and finding alignment to those principles so that those decisions really come from what matters most to you.
Yeah,
That comes from the place of your own authenticity, the way that
yeah,
you want to show up in the world. So,
yeah,
really forming those decisions, that is like the inner butterfly stage, finding who am
yeah,
I and how do I want to be. I love that.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Any other closing thoughts on beliefs or ways that people can implement and practice? If you have one takeaway for people today, what
Yeah.
can they do now to create this awareness and decide any clarity
Yeah.
on how to be a leader in this space, a thought leader, and helping people to shift?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the invitation. One of the ways that we start with people, almost everybody we work with, we start with a simple question: where in your life or your leadership, however people want to think about that, where do you feel regret or remorse?
Mm,
And those are big, heavy words. But here's what we mean by them. Where are the moments in your week where you walk out of an office and you say, "Man, I wish that would have gone differently." Or when are those moments where you're in a hard conversation, maybe with a 16-year-old kid that got a speeding ticket,
mhm,
and you say, "I wish I wouldn't have said that." Like, those are moments of regret and remorse. And what they do is they shine a light on places that we're misaligned, where
yeah.
our lived experience is not aligned with who we want to be. And we might not even know what those, like, we might not even be able to articulate who we want to be.
Yeah.
But the regret and remorse shows something that's happening in us that we might not even have words for.
Right.
We offer people the tool of reflection in those moments, to reflect on those times. No shame, no evaluation of good, bad, no feeling of like, I shouldn't do that. None of that.
Yeah.
Just a gentle reflection that says, what happened? What did I do? What emotions did I feel? And what do I want to do next time? Because
Mhm.
there will be a next time.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the next time, like I celebrate that because I get to try it again. You
Uh-huh.
know, it's
Yeah.
it's not it's not shame. It's I get to
Mhm.
try again.
Right.
And we think like that's the secret is to understand this happened and I get to do it again. And here's how I want to do it next time.
Yeah. And the upward spiral of growth that that creates by allowing the awareness, having the compassion, gives you that power in that moment. Oh my gosh, now that I can see it,
Yeah.
I can choose differently. I can
Yes.
become more of that person that I want to be. I love
Penny.
that.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Thank you so much. That's powerful. Well, let's close it up then and tell people today where they can find you and how you can support them.
Yeah, thanks so much. We have a website. It's brimstonecoachinggroup.com. That's brimstone with a B. On our website are all sorts of links where people can connect with us and figure out if maybe our philosophy is a good fit where people feel stuck. That's free, no obligation. We also have a book there. We have some other resources people can find to kind of get a glimpse of who we are and why we do what we do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Listeners, we hope today's conversation will help you clarify and figure out where do you feel like you're doing something you have to do and where is that taking you down the road? Are you
Mhm.
going toward a cliff of burnout and is that what you really want? Or is there ways that you can let go the push, the have to, the force so that you can look more toward what you truly want and building that inner foundation? Thank you so much for listening today, and we will join you next time. This is Pennie Wilson signing off.